Begin transmission. Omega clearance only.
In August 2025, Fort Collins, Colorado, made headlines. Cottontail rabbits sprouting grotesque, horn-like growths, dubbed zombie rabbits and Frankenstein bunnies by locals in social media. Experts called it a common virus, spread by insects, harmless to humans. But I know the truth. Those horns mirror the maelstrom plague, a bioengineered horror, born in D7's labs, now loose in the wild. My name is Nathaniel.
16 years in Facility D7, a black site buried so deep under Nevada's desert, it's a ghost on every map. I'm the eyes in the sky, monitors, feeds, vitals, watching monsters so the world doesn't have to. I've seen cryptid hybrids slither through vents, DNA experiments screaming in tongues no human throat could form. But nothing prepared me for Peru's cursed harvest. The maelstrom plague, a bioengineered pathogen that didn't just infect, it rewrote flesh into nightmares. I'm recording this from a sealed surveillance perch because what started in a fog-choked Andean village is clawing into your world. If you're hearing this, D7's firewall is cracked. This isn't folklore, it's a warning, and warnings don't stop monsters. They just tell you where the screaming began. 8 months ago, whispers hit our intel feeds from a Peruvian village lost in the Andes cloud forest, a place so remote it had no name, only fog that clung like a shroud and a bell that tolled without a hand to ring it. Locals called it La Maldición de los Tentáculos, the tentacle curse. Reports described villagers sprouting black horn-like growths that twisted into writhing tendrils, draining life like parasitic vines. Animals, rabbits, dogs, deer, stumbled with tumors that pulsed as if alive, tasting the air with obscene intent. Satellite imagery showed a ghost town, bodies strewn like broken dolls, flesh erupting with antlered growths that seemed to breathe. D7 analysts flagged it, the maelstrom plague.
The hunters didn't find the pathogen in a lab or a lab-grown vault. They found it, buried in myth, deep beneath an uncharted region of the Amazon rainforest. Beyond satellite reach and off every known map, they discovered something ancient and impossible. Hidden beneath miles of overgrowth and tangled root systems was a colossal subterranean pyramid, untouched by time, architecture unlike anything known to man. This wasn't Aztec. It wasn't Mayan, not even Olmec. The markings were older, more alien. The pyramid's geometry bent the eye, perfect angles that seemed to shift under torchlight. Within its core chamber they found statues, towering figures carved from immaculate white marble, each adorned in red armor that shimmered like liquid metal. Their faces bore no expression, but their eyes, twin obsidian stones, reflected more than light. They seemed to see. One statue, kneeling, extended a hand, palm upward, as if offering something. Nestled within the hand was a specimen, an organic, glassy cyst pulsating faintly with internal motion. It was warm, alive, and wrong. The hunters extracted it, logged it, labeled it as an ancient bioartifact. What they didn't know was that it wasn't a relic, it was asleep, and it had just been awakened.
Fused with cryptid DNA, Wendigo hunger, skinwalker mimicry, stolen from black site vaults no one dared name.
Subject 12A, organic restructuring 98% complete. Commence stage 2 protocol.
It was no natural plague, it was D7's design, a field trial for a bioweapon meant to reshape flesh and mind. They sent the hunters, ghosts among ghosts, to retrieve a sample. I watched from my perch, holographic screens painting a nightmare in green and red, my pulse hammering like a war drum. The hunters weren't standard operatives, not CIA, not Delta, not even human in the way you'd think. Officially, they don't exist. No files, no names, no trace. They operate under Project Asylum, a clandestine initiative born post-World War II, when Allied forces seized Nazi occult research, grimoires, artifacts, and experiments blurring science and sorcery. Whispers in D7's corridors spoke of their formation, hand-picked from special forces, psychic sensitives, and survivors of paranormal encounters, trained to hunt cryptids like Subject R32, anomalies defying physics and reason. Some said their ranks included those touched by the otherworldly, soldiers who'd stared into the void and walked away changed. They materialized from nowhere, encased in tactical gear darker than midnight, faces hidden behind reflective visors, voices stripped to mechanical growls by modulators. They'd hunted entities across Eastern Europe's haunted forests. Sahara's cursed dunes, and Antarctic wastelands, leaving only shadows and questions. This team, 5 Spectres, Corporal Diego Diaz,
First
wiry
slice wins.
ex-Marine, wielded knives like a surgeon, his reflexes sharpened against things faster than thought.
Then we have Captain Maria Reyes.
Reyes, a veteran with scars from ops erased from history, had a gaze that could cut steel, rumored to sense things before they moved. Private John Harlan, built like a tank, carried a silence from a mission gone wrong in Siberia's taiga.
Private Seojin Kwan
The tech specialist,
commanded drones like extensions of his mind. His electromagnetic sensitivity whispered to be unnatural.
Sergeant Ana Lopez, the medic, stitched men back from death's edge, her calm masking a chupacabra encounter in Mexico's deserts. Their biohazard suits gleamed under visors, neural-linked drones buzzing like mechanical wasps. They touched down at dusk, silhouettes against the freezing breath of the cloud forest, boots sinking into mud that glistened red under the last light. Reyes signaled quiet, her hand steady despite the stench, copper, rot, and a sickly sweetness that clawed at the throat. Reyes's helmet cam caught the first sign.
Unidentified bioform.
A stray dog, fur matted with blood and filth, stumbling through the mist. Black growths sprouted from its muzzle, twitching like feelers, each tipped with a bud that pulsed as if breathing. Hostile fauna, Reyes muttered, her tranq rifle humming. Pop. The dart hit, but the dog didn't flinch. Its tendrils lashed, faster than eyes could track, and Harlan screamed as they pierced his suit's shoulder plate, squealing like wire on glass. Blood sprayed, his vitals flatlining as maelstrom growths burrowed, his body convulsing into something not human, skin splitting, horns budding from his jaw. Formation Delta, Reyes barked, voice cutting through the chaos. Kwan's drones strafed the horde, EMPs disrupting whatever passed for neural signals in these abominations. But infected villagers emerged from the fog, dozens, eyes milky white, skin torn by tentacles snapping like whips. They moved with superhuman speed, maelstrom mutations granting strength that crushed stone and bent steel. The fight was pandemonium. Kwan's drones pulsed EMPs, their hum a desperate counterpoint to the bells tolling. The infected absorbed sonic rounds, flesh bubbling and reforming. A woman, her torso a writhing nest of tendrils, tackled Diaz, slamming him into an adobe wall until it cracked. He slashed with his combat knife, severing growths that regrew faster than he could cut, black ichor spraying like oil. "They're regenerating!" he shouted, voice cracking with panic. Lopez lobbed incendiary grenades, flames licking the fog, casting grotesque shadows as huts burned. A villager lunged at her, its antlered face splitting to reveal a maw of pink, petaled flesh exhaling glittering mist. Her glove tore, and she slapped a sealant patch on, but her eyes betrayed fear, a rare crack in her composure. Harlan rose, now one of them, tentacles sprouting from his skull, his scream no longer human. Reyes put a round through his head, her voice steady but tight. "Keep moving." They tracked the maelstrom signature through terraces overgrown with weeds, past tools left mid-task, through curtains of moss slick with black sap. The bell's chimes grew louder, not metal but organic, a chorus of growths clattering on the slopes above. The trail led to a cave, a wound in the mountainside exhaling cold, damp air. Inside, bioluminescent fungi cast an eerie glow, illuminating bones, rabbits, foxes, children, picked clean, then grown through, as if roots had claimed them as soil. The tunnel widened into a chamber, and the chamber had a heart. It moved like a ripple, then a deep exhale after eons asleep. A jaguar stepped forward, twice its natural size, fur ruptured by a colossal growth, a black, pulsating tree of flesh and bone, branches reaching the ceiling, dripping maelstrom blossoms that quivered like living things. Its eyes glowed red, slit with alien intelligence, too human, too many. Patient zero. It pounced without warning, tentacles whipping like chains. Quan was impaled, lifted like a rag doll.
His screams drowned by the gurgle of mutations budding in his flesh, horns piercing his chest, tendrils coiling from his spine.
Reyes unloaded a clip into its maw, bullets tearing chunks that knitted back instantly. Diaz jammed a sampler probe into its flank, extracting fluid mid-fight, his hands shaking as the beast's claws raked his armor. Lopez hurled a thermite charge, and the explosion rocked the chamber,
collapsing the cave ceiling above the creature in a storm of rock and dust.
The jaguar was buried, its roar fading under rubble.
As the dust began to settle, the two operators spotted an ancient structure partially unearthed beneath the cave floor, its stone surface etched with unfamiliar hieroglyphs. A narrow passage led deep into the mountain, where something long buried awaited. The origin of the outbreak, a biological weapon, crafted not by nature, but by something far older.
The hard case vanished into sub-level 12, a black hole even my clearance couldn't pierce. Dr. Emil Hirsch, a ghost in a lab coat with eyes like dead stars, led the Maelstrom project. They fused the prehistoric microbe with cryptid DNA, Wendigo for its insatiable hunger, Skinwalker for its mimicry, harvested from artifacts sealed in D7's vaults, since Project Asylum's founders plundered forbidden knowledge beneath Berlin. Whispers leaked through the facility's vents. Neural hijack, tentacle extrusions, cognitive assimilation. Hirsch's voice, intercepted on a stolen audio log, chilled me. This strain is gold. Adaptive assimilation, flesh that merges, evolves, thinks, will turn enemies into their own nightmares. I saw grainy feeds from sub-level 8, rabbits sprouting black horns with eyes at their tips, squirrels convulsing as tendrils punched through spines, a deer smashing its skull against a wall, not in panic, but to free the maelstrom growths clawing inside. Phase 2 trials were greenlit. I knew we were playing with fire, but D7 didn't care about burns. They wanted infernos. The hunter's return haunted me. Reyes, Lopez, and Diaz were debriefed in quarantine, but I saw their feeds. Reyes staring into nothing, her intuition screaming. Lopez's hands trembling as she stitched her wounds, haunted by her chupacabra encounter. Diaz sharpening his knives obsessively, as if steel could cut the memories. Project Asylum had forged them for this, tracking horrors across continents, from wraiths in Romania's Carpathians to shapeshifters in Namibia's deserts. Rumors said Reyes survived a banshee in Ireland by sheer will. Lopez's sensitivity let her hear the maelstrom hum before it struck. Diaz's speed was unnatural, honed against things faster than thought, yet even they weren't ready for this plague. In the mess hall, Tex whispered of sub-level 12's volunteers, test subjects whose screams echoed at night. A janitor swore he saw a containment door dented outward, claw marks glowing faintly. My dreams turned sour, tendrils curling in the dark, whispering my name. Every console beep felt like a countdown. By July, the fire caught. A lab tech on sub-level 9, pricked by a contaminated needle, transformed in hours. His skin split, maelstrom tentacles erupting, tearing colleagues apart as they screamed for lockdown. Alarms blared, red lights pulsing like heartbeats. My screens showed chaos. Scientists morphing, bodies deforming, growths bursting from spines, granting speed and strength beyond human limits. They swarmed corridors, assimilating guards mid-fight. A researcher ripped a steel door off its hinges, her face a blooming maw of petaled flesh. A guard's torso split into branching bone, his screams becoming chimes like the village's terraces. Sub-level 12 went dark first, then 11, 10, racing upward. My hands shook as the infection hit the level below mine, the air vents hissing with something heavier than dust. Protocols screamed in my head. Lockdown, purge, contain. But there was the red button, forbidden except in extremis. Press it, and the wardens handle the rest, they'd said during training, their voices low, eyes averted. Myths among us, shadowy enforcers, not human, with black cards in their palms that drank light and unlocked every door. I'd laughed it off once, a ghost story for new recruits. Now, with the facility bleeding chaos, I pressed it. Sirens wailed, bulkheads slammed shut, their clang echoing like a tomb ceiling. Hidden panels hissed open 2 corridors down, and 10 wardens emerged, tall, in matte black exosuits, visors reflecting nothing but the scarlet glow of alarms. Their palms glowed with reflective chips, not metal or plastic, but something that warped the air around them. They moved like marionettes, silent, robotic, their steps too smooth for flesh or bone. On sub-level 6, they engaged. One warden raised a palm, and a tentacled scientist collapsed mid-leap, his body folding inward like origami dipped in acid. A scream cut short. Another unleashed targeted EMPs, withering maelstrom growths that shriveled like burned vines. Plasma rifles hummed, vaporizing mutants in bursts of white fire. But the infected were relentless, faster, stronger, their tentacles piercing armor like spears. A warden fell, assimilated in seconds, its suit sprouting horns that pulsed with eyes. 7 went down, their bodies twisting into new horrors, exosuits cracking like eggshells. Then, a containment breach on sub-level 2 unleashed the worst. A brown bear, a test subject infected with the enhanced maelstrom strain. Twice normal size, its hide was a forest of tentacles, horns branching from its skull like a crown of bone, eyes burning with viral intelligence. It roared, shaking the facility's foundations, and tore through the wardens. One was crushed under a paw the size of a manhole cover. Another was impaled on a tentacle spear, its black card flickering out. The last warden climbed onto the bear's back, pressing its chip to the beast's skull. The bear convulsed, shrieking like 100 voices breaking, then bit the warden in half, blood and circuits spraying the walls. The prototype's last line of defense. The floor trembled, a low groan rising from the facility's core. 3 circular hatches irised open in the central atrium, protocols I'd never known existed, hidden even from my clearance. From the depths rose the prototypes. Only 3 exist, and that's all there'll ever be. Half biological, half mechanical. Flesh grown in zero-gravity vats, fused with nanotech from crash sites no one dared name. Their bodies shimmered, armored nerve fibers pulsing like veins, synthetic bones gleaming under translucent skin, DNA stolen from anomalies locked in D7's deepest vaults. Their faces were featureless, save for a single glowing eye, cold and unblinking. They moved as one, no speech, no fear. A single mind woven from fractured AI and stolen biology. They faced 3 horrors. The bear, a scientist morphed into a Wendigo hybrid with hunger-driven maelstrom tentacles that writhed like starving serpents, and a guard turned skinwalker, its body shifting forms mid-fight, mimicking fallen wardens to confuse its foes. The battle was apocalyptic, a blur of violence on my screens. Prototype 1, sleek and chrome, unleashed energy blades that sliced tentacles, black ichor spraying like ink. Prototype 2, bulky with gravitational manipulators, pinned the skinwalker, crushing its shifting limbs into the floor. Prototype 3, ethereal with phase tech, ghosted through attacks, its form flickering like a broken hologram. The Wendigo hybrid tore into 2, cracking its chassis, nanites spilling like blood, glowing briefly before dimming. 3 exploded in a shower of sparks and gore, taking the skinwalker with it, their twisted forms collapsing in a heap of ash and bone. 1 left, Prototype 1 against the bear. It charged, tentacles coiling like chains, horns goring the air. The prototype dodged, plasma bursts searing flesh that bubbled and reformed. The bear's tentacles wrapped its limbs, injecting maelstrom sludge, but nanites purged it in bursts of blinding light. They grappled, mech fist versus claw, energy blade versus horn. The bear roared, peeling paint from walls, its split jaw snapping with human teeth. The prototype activated overdrive, boosters flaring blue, and drove a blade through the beast's core. Maelstrom fluid gushed, mutations reversing in death throes, tendrils curling inward like dying spiders. With a final slash, it severed the bear's head, the monstrous skull rolling to a stop with a wet thump. Silence fell, heavy as the fog in Peru. I thought it was over. My screens flickered, and a systems alert blared. Bio-containment breach. Sub-level 4. Spore dispersal detected. In the chaos, a micro-breach in ventilation, perhaps from the bear's rampage, spewed maelstrom aerosols topside. Bio-readouts spiked across every floor. the air itself turning traitor. Wildlife carried it first. Rabbits with horned growths twitching like eyes. Deer with flesh bubbles bursting into tendrils. Squirrels convulsing as black stalks punched through their spines. By August 2025, reports flooded in. Mexico, 5,217 animal screwworm cases, 41 human infections, skin splitting with growths that moved. Colorado,
Dude, that ain't normal. It's eating meat. What the
zombie rabbits with black horns, documented on shaky civilian footage. Maryland, a man hospitalized with a strain not seen in decades, his face budding with antlers. Officially, maelstrom outbreaks were blamed on insect vectors. But I know the truth. D7's weapon, engineered in our labs, now loose in the world. The prototype vanished into the hatches, its glowing eye dimming as if awaiting the next command. D7 scrubbed the incident. A memo reading, containment restored, 92% casualties, survivors reassigned, but I leaked this, burning every clearance I had left.